In today's video, we're creating a 4-3-3 tactic, going in depth and using the match engine to guide me through tweaking the tactic to make it perfect. I've completed 2 seasons, one with Leeds United, a strong side in the Championship. The tactic was based on Marcelo Bielsa's time at Leeds. It's not a recreation, it was inspired. But not every team can play with Bielsa's intensity, especially not Kaiserslautern in the second Bundesliga, predicted to finish 9th. This is where the match engine comes into play, to get an understanding of how certain roles and team instructions work to allow us to tweak from the original system and make a perfect system at Kaiserslautern. Just like every formation out there are going to be some strengths and there are going to be some weakness around the formation, so these are the pros and cons of a 4-3-3. The shape allows for good defensive coverage out of possession. You can have good protection in the wider areas due to having 2 wider players, but also in central positions with 2 central defenders and 3 central midfielders. One of those central midfielders, the CDM, gives the back 4 protection whilst allowing the fullbacks to attack while in possession. The opposition therefore has to work hard in creating scenarios where they can outnumber you, especially when your team has dropped into a mid or low block, as now you can defend in a 4-1-4-1 or a flat 4-5-1 formation. Similarly, in possession, the shape naturally allows you to have good passing networks. The 4-3-3 shape creates triangles, allowing the player in possession to always have an option. If against a midfield of 2, then your midfield of 3 naturally has a numerical advantage which you can expose. Lastly, the shape is good for both proactive and reactive styles of play. If you want to play on the front foot, you can commit players forward, such as your fullbacks, who can join the attack line, creating an attacking shape with 5 in the attack. Or, if you want to be more cautious of overcommitting players forward, the attacking line of 3 with the midfield support can be an effective way to hit teams on the break, breaking from a compact shape. Now, for the cons, if your wingers find it hard to track back or your system is an attacking one, the opposition may be able to find space between your fullbacks and your wingers to attack, especially on the counter. Your fullbacks can become isolated, especially if you have overcommitted, allowing the opposition to create 2 versus 1s against your fullback. On the flip side, if you are looking to react and be more cautious of overcommitting players forward, your central forward especially can become isolated, making it difficult to hold up play to link up with the other players. And for the last negative, if your central defensive midfielder isn't disciplined with his positioning or has low positional awareness, this can leave your backline easily exposed. This can be the case in high-pressing systems. The CDM may be required to support the midfielders ahead of them when high-pressing, but if the opposition can play through or bypass, they will have the opportunities to attack your backline. It would be a great tactical decision if you press that like button right now. It's so easy to do, it helps this channel out massively, and it will be the best decision you have made all day. But also, it will be an even greater tactical decision if you could check out the Patreon. It would be hugely appreciated. You do get bonus content, so make sure you check it out right now or after we break down this video. Let's go. So of course, in game, to make this 4-3-3, the first thing you want to do in the tactic creating screen is to create a 4-3-3 formation. And here already you have your first major decision to make. Do you want to be reactive? Do you want to be proactive? Do you want to play on the front foot, or do you want to soak up some pressure and hit teams on the counter attack? To get a good understanding of your expectations, of course, you can listen to your board, but you can check out the season preview. So if you go to your league, the overview button up here, you can drop down to season preview, and here should tell you where you should be expected to finish. This current league season is actually finished, which is one reason why the odds are so high. No other team can catch us. The season's done. We've won the league and we've done it invincible. We didn't lose a single game. But being one of the stronger teams in the Championship just let me know that I can play on the front foot. There is also a very underrated page on this game. So if we go to the squad planner, go to report, then comparison, here you can compare the ability of your squad with the others within the league. So one thing that I would do, for an example, if I want to use my player's pace in attack, first off, I will see what my player's pace is looking like. So the average pace of my attacking players is around 14.33. Now I can compare that with the average pace of the defenders in the league. So now I'm just going to click on defenders, hover over pace. So this little digit that we see here, 13.90, that's the average pace of my defenders. But if I hover over it, it tells me that the average pace is 13.61. So we are slightly faster than the average pace of defenders in the league. Now things are slightly different at Kaiserslautern. We are no longer one of the stronger sides. In fact, we're sort of just around that mid-table, not expected to do much. So now what I can do against certain opposition is actually just adjust my mentality. If I'm going away against one of the top sides, then I might want to drop my mentality a little bit. Or if I'm playing against sides that are predicted to get relegated, then I might have that opportunity to play a bit more positive. And in Football Manager, it's fairly easy to see if you have good pitch coverage or if there are areas of concern. So the first thing you can do, we're just going to use quick pick here and ignore this message from Eddie, and then we're going to click this analysis tab, and here we can sort of see our pitch coverage. We can see one slight minor con of using a 4-3-3. In a 4-2-3-1, you would naturally have that number 10. In a 4-3-3, we of course doesn't. So there is a slight major issue, the game says, just behind that striker, but that is also due or down to the roles that we are using. At the moment, you can see advanced forward, but if we were to change this to complete forward, then voila, we have that area covered. The aim though isn't to have every box green and looking perfect as it is right now. Well, you can if you want to, but at the moment, everything is looking green and it looks perfect, looks good to go. But if we do look at the roles, we've only got one attacking duty and we'll instantly come up with some issues breaking the opposition down. Though the analyst tab looks all green and perfect, the roles and combinations certainly aren't. But it is always good to keep your eye out on the analysis tab when you are changing roles and making your tactic, because you can go back to this page and then you can see some areas that, well, will definitely concern you and you might want to fix before you even step out onto the pitch. So here are the roles that I chose for my 4-3-3. If we check the analysis, we still have that red box, but I'm not too concerned by it because we still have low influence from the striker, from the left side of central midfielder, but also from the right side of central midfielder. So it's letting me know that this area can be occupied, but no one's directly looking to occupy this space. There is also a little red dot just behind my right sided central midfielder. There is a medium positive influence from Brendan Aronson, my right sided midfielder, but also from my defensive midfielder. I'm not overly, again, concerned by this because of the role that I chose. So starting off looking at the midfield trio, we've got Aronson who's looking to join the attackers. Then we've got our central midfielder on support, looking to be that link and give us that central midfield presence. And then we've got that ball winner midfielder who can sweep up the mess from our attackers. So here's a clip from a game against Burnley, 4-3-3. Odegaard is trying to break forward. Amdouni gets forward, but there is Ampadu, funny enough, on that right hand side, breaking up play for us. Remember, we are on the front foot. We're playing with that positive mentality, so we have committed some bodies forward. So it's very, very key for our defensive midfielder to be on the defend duty so he can do this and break up play before we get badly hurt. Great goal by Somerville. And this is what the ball winner midfielder does in Football Manager. Again, keep your eye on number 4. Here's Yates on the ball. Amdouni, it's him again. Amdouni again feels the clamping from my ball winning midfielder. At Kaiserslautern though, I ran into trouble with this ball winning midfielder, and it wasn't necessarily him. It was actually the system around him. So I'm going to play this clip. We are the team in white, and I want to see if you guys can spot the reason why I wanted to change my defensive midfielder role against certain teams. In this game, we were 2-0 up and we did pretty well in recovering and winning the ball, but there were some warning signs. So I've got the 2 players in red highlighted, and it's their 2 strikers. Once we do lose the ball in attack right here, you can see now it's 2 versus 2, and that's a situation we absolutely don't want to be in. From that moment, against 2 attackers at Kaiserslautern, I made a change. I simply used a halfback. Now this is us using a halfback. Keep an eye on number 4, but also keep an eye on their number 34 and their number 12. So here we are trying to build out from the back. If I pause it here, you can now see in the same or similar situation, rather than it being 2 versus 2, we've now got 3 versus 2. The opposition found it a lot harder to counter-attack us and exploit those 2 versus 2s. The halfback in possession also allowed us to create an overload, an early overload against the opposition's 2 strikers. So here again, we can see we have 3 at the moment, 3 central defenders against 2 attackers. And here we are again. The halfback will drop into the back line and help us build out, creating that early overload. Here he is on the ball. The other team just really don't want to press us, as they will leave some gaps in their midfield. In this system, there was a pattern that I absolutely adore, and it's a pattern that the AI find difficult to defend against. So we have 2 complete wingbacks who like to play further forward. They want to affect the areas in the midfield third and in the attacking third. They don't really want to be involved in the build-up play in the defensive third. One instruction I believed helped get the very best out of these complete wingbacks was the attacking width and setting that to narrow. Like I mentioned a little earlier, I was watching full matches and I have clips on clips on clips on clips of us building in these central areas. You can see Toure on the ball, but just keep your eyes on those wing backs. They are hardly used in the build-up stages unless we needed them as an outlet. When we found them in space, then we got the ball to them, and often playing in those narrow areas forces the opposition to then defend narrow, and it leaves those wing backs in those wider areas in space. So here we go, Mezia, here's the centre back on the ball, plays an Aronson, completely ignoring the fullback. Here's Somerville, Ampadu. Here's Groev now, I believe I pronounced that right. Here's Somerville, and now Christensen has space, finds Somerville again, and we can progress. We went from back to front and earned ourselves a corner. Here it happens again. Meslier plays it to the right back this time because Meslier he didn't get the memo. But here's Joe Rodon, here's Aronson, here's the left side of centre back. Just look at our fullbacks again. They're in space. Now we've used the left back as an outlet. Now here's the right back. Look at the space the right back has. Plays in Somerville, whips it on low, and that was a decent challenge from a Sunderland defender. Once again, so what we want to do is suck the opposition narrow. Once this right side, the central midfielder has the ball, you can just see how narrow Blackburn are. Somerville has space, but so too the right back as well, especially if he overlaps. Somerville gets the ball, the right back tries to overlap and then thinks, you know what, I'll stay here, and then gets his cross blocked. So with that narrow attacking shape and complete wing-back combination, you can see my right wing-back where he likes to touch the ball and where he mostly operates. He's a complete wing-back. He wants to be further higher. So a lot of these touches are actually around the mid-third and the attacking third. And if you are using that narrow attacking shape, it doesn't mean that your team are going to be very close to each other and all bunched up in the middle. No, it's more about where you want to guide the ball. So against Sheffield Wednesday, for an example, if I look at the passes received, so if I look at the right and the left hand side, if I look at the passes received, compare that to the passes received in the central areas, I mean, there's a lot more passes in the central area because that's where we want to guide play. But it weren't just the complete wingbacks that were benefiting from this. I feel the whole right side in general were benefiting from it, and it could be down to the roles. The Mazzala, he absolutely loves disrupting the opposition. Now with the complete wingback and with the winger sort of operating on the same side, not the same space, but the same side, we can effectively create an overload on the left hand side, and that isolates the right hand side, and then we can play the ball to the free side, and there we are in open space. This here is exactly what I mean. James has got the ball here, he collects it from the left hand side, he cuts inside into the midfield. What we've got on the right hand side right now is a 3 versus 2. Blackburn are outnumbered. James gets the ball to Groev, completely dangerous at this point, plays it into Somerville, and he can now drive towards the box, plays it to Groev. Somerville, the shot goes wide. Here we get to see the Mazzala absolutely disrupting the opposition shape. Again, as the ball's on the left hand side this time, look at the right hand side. If we can work the ball to the right hand side, in which we do, Clement gets the ball. The left side centre back decides to push out because, you know, our Mazzala is in that difficult space to defend against, and that just forces the opposition to push out, leaves a space in the defence line. The striker gets onto the ball and expertly buries it. And you don't have to worry about the Mazzala and inside forward operating the same space. These players have eyes, they have brains. Somerville here, as you can see, he stops his run inside, as you can see the Mazzala breaking through that channel. So he just stays wide, and it is an option for this right sided centre midfielder, and then we can play, and that is a decent save by Piers. In fact, you get some positional interchange between the right sided centre midfielder and the right winger. Here you can see Arison just out to the right hand side, and now is momentarily that right winger, while Somerville is now momentarily that right sided central midfielder. Arison on the ball, plays it to Christensen, finds Ampadu on the edge of the box. He doesn't shoot, surprisingly. Wow. So now we can start to really build this tactic. The passing directness, we are going to use shorter, and for the tempo, we are going to use slightly higher. The higher the tempo, the more turnovers that will happen for you. They don't really want to take a touch and make sure that we are under fully control. Now, lastly, with the team instructions in the final third, if you've got an Edin Dzeko, if you've got a Tammy Abraham, it might be okay just to leave this at mixed crossing. But we do have Rutter, who he is 6 foot, but he's got 11 jumping reach, 12 strength, 8 aggression, 11 bravery, and 12 heading. He's not going to be the strongest in the air. So I felt for my team to create good chances, it will be best to be using low crosses. In transition, we are looking to counter press and counter with a goalkeeper in possession. I didn't use any instructions, but there are going to be, we know the pros of counter pressing, right? If we lose the ball, we can win the ball back instantly, but there's cons to it, and the biggest one is not being able to get there in time. So here we lose the ball, the poor pass from Ampadu there, it goes straight into Mintez's path, and as we're now trying to counter press, because we're not close enough to the ball, we are easily beaten. Using counter-attacking, I didn't actually see many warning signs in this system, but with counter-press, I did notice sometimes we could try and play that pass that Ampadu did from defensive midfield to the left back. It can be quite a distance. If it gets intercepted, sometimes we haven't got enough players in close proximity to instantly engage in a counter-press. So it is one of those instructions I was tweaking when watching games on full match or comprehensive, the counter pressing. If you feel you are getting countered way too easily and you are using counter press, try and use without it. Not necessarily regroup, just turn it off. And lastly, at least because we want to play on the front foot, we are going to be using the high press, a high defensive line, prevent that short goalkeeper distribution, and much more often trigger press. Again, at least beforehand, I knew this was sort of the way that I want to play. Don't hate me, it's just the way I prefer to watch and enjoy football. But at Kaiserslautern, again, we couldn't approach opposition with that same intensity. So also sort of the point in today is tweaking an original system. And there are, of course, cons of using high pressing intensity. And it's similar to counter pressing, where the more you press and the more your players get out of position, the more you can actually become exposed, especially if the opposition are able to play through. So here's low on the ball, the left back plays it into low, the left winger. Wow, they got 2 lows there. My centre back tries to press, and look, you could just see we was all over the place. So at Kaiserslautern, my go-to was putting the pressing in the middle. Not one notch, so it's a more often rather than very often. I literally just pull it in the middle, and this is how the team defend without the ball. Our players just kept in their defensive shape. We were using a positive mentality, so there's still a slight bit of aggressiveness, and of course we are using the high press line of engagement, but as you can see, we're more focused on cutting the passing lanes rather than everyone running like headless chickens trying to win the ball back. Again, with the pressing halfway, this is the good of having that press halfway. The ball goes to their centre back, and they are playing with a back three. We've only got one striker, so again, if we are pressing at headless chickens, it could be easy to actually play through. Here's the left winger, brings the ball forward, but we just had a great defensive shape about us, which allowed us to initially win that ball. With Kaiserslautern, especially at home, I was very happy just to go with this defensive solution. So we are still with the high press and high defensive line, just like at Leeds, but we have knocked this trigger press down 1 to more often. but also the mentality changes a lot as well. So we aren't always at positive mentality. Sometimes we will just drop to that balance where our press actually becomes a little less aggressive. But when we are up against two strikers, we are using the halfback, but now the trigger press again has dropped down into that middle area. We're no longer stepping up more as well. I tried that, and sometimes that one of the two strikers can just beat our defensive line again just too easily. So that was sort of my solution against opposition that are playing with two strikers. Drop the press even more, but also add a halfback. So not only can we have an early overload when trying to build from the back, we don't get caught on counters, because when we're in possession, that halfback is expected to be a third centre back. So here are the completed versions. This is what the team instructions look like in possession for the main version, I guess the Leeds version. In transition, also the goalkeeper in possession. The reason why I left that, I actually quite liked the unpredictability. This doesn't always happen, of course, but here's the goalkeeper just going long, and sometimes I just found it was an easy way to get at the opposition's defensive line and really attack them. Now, of course, there are going to be moments where you are missing out on that first initial header. And as we've gone through, the Kaiserslautern version is slightly different. These tactics will be available in the download folder, and you can also recommend me some other shapes to do. I went with the 4-3-3 because I think it's fairly universal, and I think this one is fairly easy to tweak. I know a lot of people don't like overly aggressive tactics. I personally don't find this overly aggressive, even though we do have that trigger press all the way up and counter press and counter, but I do find this is a system where you can easily just remove one or two instructions, just don't completely harm the tactic. Before we look at the results and end this video, I want to talk about some misconceptions about one or two roles. We will start with the poacher, because many people don't believe the poacher is effective at link and play or does it at all. He does, but he will do so while operating on the last line of the opposition's defense. He won't look to drop from his position into midfield, but he can still momentarily hold up the ball and play in runners behind him. This was something that I found very, very interesting. And again, it's something that I actually have a lot of clips on. But here's our central midfielder into Moretti. Here's Rutter. Look at him holding up the ball momentarily, linking up play around him. And that allows us to go and attack the opposition. The central midfielder on support is a very intriguing role. Sometimes he can go a bit unnoticed, and sometimes Football Manager don't give the player the match rating they really deserve. The central midfielder is responsible for providing an industrious and versatile link between defense and attack, expected to perform a variety of tasks across the center of the pitch. The central midfielder benefits from having the tactical awareness and technical ability to support both defense and attacking players needed. With a support duty, the central midfielder will look to balance his attacking and defensive responsibilities. He will get further forward when necessary, but will mainly keep into the center of the pitch and attempt to thread passes into the final third. I don't think I've read something any more truer. Here is the central midfielder, so number 12, when he does receive the ball. Here's the left-sided centre back. Here's Aronson. He is the link between the defence and attack. A bit of fancy play there, bit of dribbling and running wide with the ball. Nonetheless, he is effective in link and play there. The CM in the system also gives us presence as well. Here's Moretti, this time the left-sided centre midfielder, because like I said, I do have my CMs on swap positions. And just look at his positioning. He's not on the left side of the midfield, he's quite literally in the centre of the pitch, making sure we have that central midfield presence, while the Mazzala has actually drifted further forward alongside the striker. Just keep an eye out on that central midfielder. He just keeps his position in the centre of that midfield. So that is it for the misconception and the intriguing role. I did actually have the Mazzala. I've got it written here. I've got the Mazzala, but I already touched on the Mazzala because my mouth likes to do this sometimes. But also the left back and the left winger as well. I have streamed, or I do have tactics, and people in the comments do say, won't the two just operate in the same space? They can-ish. They can play in close proximity, but that means that you can create an overload. Now, of course, if you have two doing the exact same things on each flank, that might be a little ineffective. But if we can create a slight overload on the left hand side and then have more fluidity on the right hand side where the inside forward can stay wide, the Mazzala can drift wide as well, then we can create some isolation. So when we do switch the ball, we've got 2 players free, or one of them will be free, because then we can create a 2 versus 1 and create some good football. So lastly, for the results, my greatest achievement today is going invincible in a football season and Football Manager. But this isn't the Premier League, this is the Championship. So there's 46 games and not 38. So we didn't lose in 46 games, winning 36, drawing 10, of course, losing 0. At Leeds, we scored the most goals, we had the most shots for, the fewest shots against, most dribbles made, the fewest conceded, most clean sheets. We statistically dominated the Championship. Now, many of you might not find dominating games fun. I absolutely loved it at Leeds, because not only were they dominating games, they were dominating games in the way I set them out to dominate games. And now at Kaiserslautern, we too won the league here as well. We of course lost a few more games, 4 to be exact, 3 away from home. We drew 6 as well. Again, 5 of them, 5 of those draws away from home. So away from home, yeah, there was a bit of difficulty, weren't there? Statistically, the numbers started to drop as well, but we did make those tweaks. We knew we couldn't be Leeds, so we had to drop mentality from time to time, the trigger press, remove counter press as well. Sometimes I even lowered the tempo because I wanted to hang on to a result. So we scored 69 goals, which is the second most. That is still pretty good. Second most shots for, the second fewest shots. I mean, it looks like we just came in second all the time, but winning the league. We won the league, and unfortunately that wraps up today's video. I apologize if today's video was so long, but I just wanted to show some match engine pieces and be more Football Manager in depth, whereas my tactic generally are tactical analysis from real life. We've done a tactical analysis on our own system on Football Manager, an invincible one and one that overachieved massively at Kaiserslautern. So I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Make sure you have liked this video. Make sure you are subscribed to the Patreon as well. Hugely appreciated. I almost said I will see you soon, but before I do say that, make sure in the comment section you also give me some other formations to do the same video with. I will see you guys soon. Stay safe. God bless. Peace out.